like to introduce our opening keynote speaker, Dr. Farritor.
Thank you. So excited to be here. This is a great conference, a great venue in Kearney, and I applaud you all, first of all, for just showing up here. I think the fact that you're here says that you're interested in doing more than your job demands. And I'm going to give a long, rambling talk, just to warn you. I want to touch on a few topics. I have a lot of favorite topics I talk about. First, I'll just do a little bit of introduction about myself, who I am. I want you to know who I am, where I'm coming from. And then I want to talk a little bit about just my outlook on your job and what you should be doing and the new economy and those sorts of things. And then I'm going to touch a little bit on creativity. I think in your job you have to figure out what makes you special, and being creative might be one of those things. So I'm going to touch on that a little bit. And then I'm going to end by talking about a makerspace. At the University of Nebraska, Rob mentioned the Maker Club. We're starting a new initiative. We're trying to make what's called a makerspace. We're trying to create a makerspace. And maybe, anybody here heard of a makerspace before? So a low percentage of you guys have heard of a makerspace. So these seem disconnected, but to me it makes some sense. So I hope in the end you'll agree that there's some semblance here. Yeah, so I grew up just north of here in a little town called Ravenna. My dad owned a hardware store, and I always joke that growing up, Kearney was like Paris to me. It was the center of culture and restaurants, and fashion was all here in Kearney. It was the nearest movie theater, the nearest McDonald's, the nearest everything. So it's really great to be back here. I had my first date with my wife here in June of 1987, about 300 yards from where I am now. So it's great to be back. This is key, though, because I'm going to bring this back up. My job in that hardware store was to sell nuts and bolts to farmers who broke their combine. This is broken. I can't fix it. Part's going to cost me $100. Can I make something that will fix this for me and allow me to get back in the field? And I think that's a big part of who we are as Nebraskans, especially in this area. We're problem solvers. We have to do a lot of this stuff on our own because we're a little bit more isolated than people in New York or in Silicon Valley. And I think we need to take advantage of that. So I'll come back to this as we get further into the talk. So, excuse me, a little bit about me and what I do. I make robots. I'm a professor in mechanical engineering at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I work with a medical center to build robots for surgery. So I'm just going to touch on this a little bit. In the old days, you guys are some young people in the room, the ancient days of the 1980s. In those ancient days, every surgery was performed by making a big incision in your body. So the surgeon, you've got a problem inside your body, the surgeon needs to get in there and fix it with their hands and fingers. To get in there, they make a large incision, they open up your body, and they repair what's broken. That was the ancient days of the 1980s. In the 90s, you get this middle picture where they'll instead of making the problem with a big cut is it hurts a lot. You cut through a lot of muscle. It's not the surgery on the inside that hurts a lot. It's cutting through your abdominal muscle. And now you can't move without stretching that wound and causing all that pain. So it takes a long time to recover from that surgery. In the 90s came laparoscopic surgery. They make a few small holes, they inflate your abdomen, and they put these tools in there. The older folks in the room might relate to this a little bit more. We want to do surgery through one hole in your belly button by placing a robot into that incision. If you can make a small robot that goes inside the body, we think we can do great things by reducing this invasiveness. And our target application is colon resection. Maybe you've heard of colon cancer. There's about 400,000 cases of colon cancer per year in the US. About 300,000 of those cases are done the old way with a big incision. It's a very difficult procedure. It's hard to do with the tools. I always tell people, go home and try to tie your shoes with needle nose pliers. It's not easy. Then you can't look at your shoes. You have to have a camera there and you have to look at a screen over here. It gets very complicated and very hard. Colon cancer is a hard surgery and it's almost always done open. So probably if you have colon surgery here in Kearney, Nebraska, you'll have an open procedure. I want to make those 300,000 people per year in the US from the big incision to one small incision in their belly button. And we're going to do that by putting a robot on the inside. This is a different approach. There's other companies trying to make big robots on the outside. We're trying to make little robots on the inside. These guys are about this big. 2 arms, right? Left and right. I guess they're hanging down. 2 arms left and right. I'm not Miami. I'm not a fan of Miami. I guess you can do the upside down thing. And they're shaped like you and I. You can't see the camera in these, but there's 2 arms with 2 hands and a camera in the middle. So those are a couple of the robots we make. I have to show this because I'm a mechanical engineer, but there's gears in there, there's circuit boards. If you go to school in engineering at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, this is the kind of stuff you'll learn to do. I didn't know how to do this when I was growing up in Ravenna, but I learned to do this. These circuit boards, this gearing, these tools. Lots of stuff involved there. We can do this because we have a nice team, a mixing of talents. We work with surgeons, we work with engineers, we have students, we have more senior folks like myself involved, and we make a lot of progress because we have a good team. Now, let's see if we can play the video. Worked earlier. This is a kid from Grand Island, actually. Come on, movie. You're going to want to see these. There we go. So you can see that he's controlling the robot with just some fancy joysticks and looking at a television screen to make it work. And then the robot is at a different location, picking things up and moving them around. So the first reaction everyone has is, this is too big, it won't fit. The answer is, it's not too big, it will fit. You can probably put a football inside of you after they do this inflation, an average-sized person. You can see that vertical shaft supporting the robot. That would be passing through your belly button, and everything, the bottom part of the robot with the arms is inside you, and the rest is outside of you. This is a different approach. This is wacky. This is out there, okay? There's a lot of people trying to make robots for surgery, but they're usually big robots. They're as big as a refrigerator, and they reach in with those tools. We're shrinking the robot down and putting it on the inside. So by the very definition, okay, this is a warning. This is some surgery. Okay, you ready? Let's see if I can play some surgery. It's a couple years old now. There we are, inside of an animal performing surgery in developing this robot. So you can see the 2 arms, the camera in the middle, just like I have my head between my arms. That's an important thing. And we're cutting and we're manipulating tissue and we're removing this colon in this animal. Okay? That's enough blood and guts, right? All right. This picture doesn't fit with the last stuff. Any questions on the last stuff? I'll take a couple there. This is what I do. This is what we do at the University of Nebraska. One question here.
Was the animal alive when you were working on it?
The animal was alive. That's the key part of surgery. They're alive when we start. They're alive when we end. I didn't mean to sound mean there. All right. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we do because I think there are echoes of it through the rest of the things I want to mention to you. This is a linchpin, okay? That's the term I'm going to use today. This is an important part of a piece of machinery. It connects all the machinery together, and it's one thing. If you remove this one thing, the machine falls apart. My kids and I are always amazed. We hook up our camper, 33 feet long thing, a big F-150 pickup, but there's one pin, about as big as my thumb, that slides in there and holds the 2 things together. If you pull that one pin out, if that comes out, very bad things are going to happen. But there's one pin that holds everything together. Now, as an engineer, I understand that it's fine. You should be this. You should be the one thing that if you're removed, everything falls apart, okay? So I want you to think as I talk today about how you're going to be a linchpin in your job. This is obviously an image I stole off the internet, but this is the opposite of being a linchpin. My wife might prefer one of these, but I don't. I don't care which one of these I use. These are all different laundry detergents, and they're all the same to me. They all have the same sort of graphics, this color. What amazes me about this picture is someone did some focus group, and this 15-degree upward word angle thing, why do they all do exactly the same thing? Right? Is there anything that differentiates? Does anybody have a strong feeling about which one of these you use? Maybe there is. Not me. I don't care. Any of these is fine. Cheaper is better. That's how I select laundry detergent. My wife usually gets mad about that, but this is how it works. This is the opposite of being the linchpin. This is the one you don't want to be. Now, there's some younger people here. When I was in high school to me was, looking back, the only thing that mattered was fitting in, right? That was the focus. Was your job was to sort of be obedient and conform. I was not popular enough to be different, is the way Homer Simpson says it. I can't wear the pink shirt or the goofy thing, right? Your job is to fit in. Most people go through their job like this. My job is to fit in, do what I'm told, not be noticed, and be the gain in the middle of this stack of other laundry detergents. And I think the challenge to you, I think this is becoming less possible. I think good jobs are going to be harder to find, not easier to find. And you need to, again, figure out how you can be a linchpin. Figure out what makes you special. Why are you different than all of these? Why should you buy the Tide rather than the Gain? How about, they all have also one-syllable names, right? Tide and Fab and Surf and Gain and Whisk and Bounce. It's amazing. It's very Me Too-ish. In the future, what's going to be valuable is not just the basic skills. This is from a book called A Whole New Mind. Great TED Talk on this one, too. I'll mention all the TED Talks since Randy's here. In the old days, what was valuable was the ability to make something that functions, or the ability for lawyers, if you could make a good argument, that was valuable. The important thing was logic. The important thing was making the stuff. What's going to be valuable in the future are the big words. The ability to design something, not just function, but have it design. Not just focus on one part of something, but understand the whole system, symphony. And this book explains about how the world is changing in this way. Let me say it another way. My dad was a World War II guy, right? Didn't go to college, grew up near Broken Bow. He had 7 kids, and his job was to his mission in life was to get all 7 of them to college. And he did that. All 7 of them got to college, and that was an incredible thing that he did. The reason is because in the 50s, when he was forming his thinking, he made his work, he earned his living with his back, right? So his job was to get his kids into get a college degree, and then you can earn your living with your head rather than your back. You don't have to dig a ditch to make a living. He wanted his kids to be doctors and lawyers and all this kind of thing, or engineers. How about that one? But I did that. I'm an engineer, but my engineering skills are less valuable today because there's a lot of great engineers in China. There's a lot of great engineers in India. I was thinking about one, you guys are at a Broadband conference. In 1995, the most valuable person was a tech person who could make web pages, right? Today, you go to Wix or you go to WordPress, and you don't need anybody to make a website. I could make a website from these sites. That job has been automated. But what can't be done is telling the story of your website or somehow projecting empathy through your website. These are the skills that are becoming more valuable, not just the mechanics and the function part of the job, but these add-ons. So this is the way I want you to think about your job or your school or your life. This is a suggestion. If you're going to remember anything from me today, it's these next 2 slides, okay? I'll just be clear about that. I would be happiest if you remembered the next 2 slides. This is your job. This is what you get paid for. So you go to work, and they give you a salary, and there's a list of things you have to do to get that done. I was just at a Subway with my kids the other day. It's pretty clear to make a list of what you're supposed to do when you work at Subway. When they walk in the door, you say, "Hello, welcome to Subway." You walk to the back, they go to the order thing, you ask them what kind of bread they want, and then you ask them this, and you ask them this. I could write it all out perfectly. I'm not sure that job might be automated one day, just like the website thing, right? But this person at Subway was probably the best out of the last 500 Subway employees I encountered because he smiled, and he talked to me, and he had to ask about my kids, and he asked about these other things. This was a special Subway guy. He's not going to be working at Subway very long. In the 2 minutes it took me to, 8 minutes it takes me to order my 4 kids' meals, this guy connected with me, and we had a nice conversation, and I'll never see him again. But he added value to the Subway experience, and he won't work at Subway long. He'll go somewhere. Is Jared here? Jared just helped me. He was the tech guy here. He ran away probably. Jared, I don't see him. young guy going to UNK, helped me set up the thing. His job is to make sure that this tech stuff works. He got the microphone in my pocket. He showed me how to turn it on. He connected me to the VGA cable. He got the adapter. I'm plugged in. But later, Jared asked me, maybe Jared's boss is here. Jared asked me, hey, can I get you a cup of coffee? That's not in Jared's job description. His job description is make this tech stuff work. You all know people in life and in the world who will stick to the job description. But Jared was smart enough at 19 or however old he might be. Too bad he's not here listening to this. To figure out, let me ask this guy, he's speaking, he's sitting over here doing his email. Can I get him a cup of coffee or an orange juice? Now, again, that's an add-on to what Jared does. He's not paid for that. But that tells me Jared's not going to be the tech guy here very long. He's going to do something cool at UNK, and he's a guy to look out for. If his boss is listening, you should give him a raise. This is what you want to be. You want to be the linchpin. You want to add in the orange. This is your art. There's no map for this. There's a map for your job. I can tell you how to be a subway person. I can't tell you how to become a linchpin that fits things. There's another word up there. And furthermore, this is a gift, okay? You're paid for the stuff in the blue box, but you should do more, and it should be a gift. So that conversation with that guy at Subway, the offer of coffee from my new friend Jared, that's not part of their salary. They're doing this extra, and this is their gift that they're giving as they do this. And that's the slide I want you to remember. And I want you to have a large orange area relative to your blue area. There are so many people in the world that live in the blue area, the TGIF people, who only do the blue stuff, they only follow the map, they don't add the orange stuff. The world's going to be better if we all add orange stuff. You're going to have a better job if you add orange stuff. You're going to make more money if you add orange stuff. Okay? You're going to get the raise and the promotion if you can do the orange stuff. The trouble is I can't tell you what the orange stuff is. Okay, I gave you a couple of examples. If there was a map, like at the subway line, it would be easy, and everybody would do the orange stuff, and it would now be in the blue area. But you need to figure out what the orange stuff is in high school, whatever. I got a ton of examples. I was lucky enough to go to a real fancy school out east for engineering school. And I asked the admissions person, how do you get into this school? And of course, everybody's the top. Everybody's got perfect grades. He said they look for extra stuff. So we throw out everybody that's not at the very top, and then we look for special things. We look for specialness, basically, is what he told me. And it was true. As I sat in my office, the guy next to me was a violin player. The guy in front of me had written stories, and he had actually had won a student competition, published a short story in Playboy. And the guy next to me was this mathematical whiz guy. So there was something special about them all. And in high school, if you stick your head up, usually everybody wants to just smack you back down into the hole. That's the job. We want everybody at the same level. If somebody pops their head up, let's smack them back down. Unless you're the high school quarterback or the head cheerleader or whatever those stereotypes might be. But figure out what makes you special. Maybe you're the quilter in high school. That's not a cool thing to do, be a quilter. But if you can be the quilter, that makes you special. I don't know what it is. Figure out what your orange is. Go do it. All right? Any questions about that? We can do some fun stuff now. I've got to make sure I get off the stage at the right time, too. Anybody think I'm nuts? I'll take nuts for an answer. Yeah, over there. You got a question? Oh, okay.
He just asked if you were nuts.
Yeah. Oh, you think I'm nuts? Okay, good. That means I've got some orange. That's good. Right? Giving this talk today is not part of the professor job description either. All right, well, let's keep going. This is fun. I don't care if you guys like this. I love doing this to crowds. This is cool. I'm going to shift now. I got the main part of my talk out. I want to talk a little bit about creativity because I think one of the things that can make you special is you become a creative person. Creativity is a very complicated and challenging thing. They always say the brain is the last frontier. Nobody knows what's going on up there, especially in my wife's brain. But let's just jump right into this. Let's play this little game here, just because I like it so much. There are 3 words on the screen. There's a 4th word that connects all 3 of these words. Some people say creativity, there's nothing really new. Creativity is about making connections of things that already exist. If you're able to connect things that already exist, connect them in a different way, connect new stuff, it's a creative thing. So there's a fourth word that connects these three words, okay? Hopefully by now, this is an easy set, so hopefully by now everybody's kind of figured out it's ice, right? You've got ice cream, you've got ice skates, and you've got ice water. There's a fourth word that connects all those. No scientist in the world can describe how your brain figures that out. You've created this association somehow, and computers can't do this. They can do searches, but they can't do this. Now, here's the fun part. On the next slide, there are 3 words on the left, and there are 3 words on the right. One of those sets, either the one on the left or the one on the right, has a fourth word, okay? One of them is just a total random set of words. One of those has a fourth word, okay? So let's look at those just for a little bit, because it's fun. Okay, so no one say any fourth word. Raise your hand if you figured out what the fourth word is. So there's some percentage of you who figured out what the fourth word is. Okay, the remainder, so if you figured out what the fourth word is, I don't want to hear from you anymore, all right? So you put your hands down, I don't want to hear from you anymore. If you did not figure out what the fourth word is, but you think it's on the left, raise your hand. I see 1. If you did not figure out what the fourth word is, but you think it's on the right, raise your hand. Now this is just shocking to me. So there's one guy on the left, and the vote on the right is 40 or 50, right? If people were just guessing, you would think half of them would guess left and half of them would guess right. But we were 40-1 people voting for the set on the right. So the 40 people that raise their hands, they don't know what the word is. This is just astounding to me, and it happens every time I do this. They don't know what the word is, but they feel like it's on the right. They're guessing the right. And of course, that's correct. The word is day. Isn't it day? Daydream, daybreak, daylight connects those. But this says something astonishing about creativity. You don't even know what the word is, but you know it's on the right by a ratio of 40-1. Something's going on in your head. This is why we have good ideas in the shower. Something's happening in your head. Something's processing. You've almost got the word. You know that there's something there, but you can't quite articulate it. It's not even in your consciousness yet, but you still know it. So thank you for that. I have so much fun doing that. It's a very selfish thing to do as a speaker, but why not? Creativity is a tricky, tricky thing, is the point of that exercise. You have to give yourself time to be creative. You have to give yourself time to process that fourth word. So let's keep moving here. One of the things I do is I use a pen. Look at this. I have one right here. Get yourself one of these pens. If you want to be a linchpin, 4 colors. I use it to communicate to people. You communicate better, and you communicate, that's a big part of working as a team. Get yourself a multicolored pen. I won't go into that one. I'm starting a revolution, and it's led by these pens, so either join or be crushed. So if you're going to be creative, this is my definition. First of all, it's got to be different. If you're doing the same stuff, biz, all, tide, gain, you're not being creative. If it's exactly like everybody else, that's the first clue you're not being creative. Being different isn't sufficient. It's necessary but not sufficient. You also have to do something that's positive, something that's good. So the combination of good and different gets you creative. So if you're just let's generate art by random, we're going to need mud and urine and make some list and put it together in a random way. That's not innovative. That's just random. Okay. How far do we want to go here? You have some time. You guys are really rocking it here. I have a couple tools that I speak with. I better keep my head up. About being creative. One of them is little bets, and it's one of my favorites. We find that creative people do something called taking little bets, little risks. Not big risks, but little ones, small ones. So they say to themselves, I'm going to do something. I don't think it's going to work, but I'm going to do it, and I'll probably learn something from it. That's the definition of a little bet. It's an allocation of resources. It's an action. without the expectation of having it function, but with an eye for what you're going to learn from the process. So I would propose to you that most business managers just don't even get close to thinking that way. A business manager will say, we're going to do A, B, and C. This is our plan for this quarter. Of course I expect them to work. You know, good luck going to my boss and explaining that I'm going to do A, B, and C, but I don't expect them to work. That doesn't mix with business managers. And therefore, they're not being innovative because they're trying to follow the map. They're not out in the orange range of the art and the creativity. So let's talk about little bets. A good example of a little bet is when my son plays with Legos. He doesn't have a plan for what he's going to do with Legos, but he knows he wants to do something with Legos. So the first thing he does is he dumps them all out on the floor, and he spreads them out. And then he looks for small wins. He picks this one up, and it's an airplane wing. Let's make an airport. And he starts building an airport. And then the airport, he decided that it's really about a waterfall, or it's about spaceships. And the airport is only a small part of the bigger vision. So he starts with something, he doesn't have a plan in mind, but he moves forward and he looks for these small wins. Like, hey, these two things stuck together look like an airplane. And then he goes in that direction. I shouldn't give the Chris Rock talk today. This is another good example. You build a prototype, you give them away. Hewlett-Packard did this with calculators. They tried to make a big bet, which was let's hire a marketing company and decide what the market size is for pocket calculators. And they decided that they could sell a maximum of 10,000 of these to engineers across the world. And that's not worth the production ramp up to make this happen. But Bill Packard said, let's make 50 of them and give them away. And the people came back begging for more. Let's make 100 more. And they gave them away. And just people were begging for it. So they built a huge business on handheld calculators by this. I think my next example is Pixar. You know, they were a medical device company. But John Lasseter worked there, and he made a couple movies at night. And Steve Jobs was smart enough to say, I don't care what you do at night. Do what you want. Just get your work done during the day. And eventually Lasseter made that little movie about Luxo, the bouncing light, and eventually won an Oscar. But that was about 3 cycles into it for Best Short Film. And of course, then Steve Jobs says, look at me, I'm brilliant. We're a movie company. And let's make movies. So it went really well for everybody involved. That's not enough to know about little bets. There's a book called Little Bets. There's some TED Talks about little bets. Little bets are great things. If you want to know more, look into little bets. This is another great one. This is a great little book called Orbiting the Giant Hairball. Fun one. This is a guy who worked for Hallmark Cards, and he got sick of working for Hallmark Cards. When you think of Hallmark Cards, you think of, you know, oh, Grandma, I love you so much. You are the joy in my life, right? That's a Hallmark card. He created a new division of Hallmark cards. He went against the grain. He said, let's make black humor cards, and they'll sell. This is a new market segment. So, happy 50th birthday, you're almost dead, right? Would be his card. And people bought those cards, and it was a great thing. So his point, and I think my point to you, I think this works in high school, and I think it works a lot in business. It certainly works at the University of Nebraska, is that your work is a hairball. And this is a disgusting metaphor that he chose on purpose. The hairball is the institution, the bureaucracy, right? And you can get caught inside of that and never leave and never do your art and never do anything beautiful if you get caught in the hairball. Your job is to orbit the hairball. You don't want to depart the hairball and leave. So the university does nice things for me. It provides me with a desk, lights, heat, accounting services, purchasing, receiving. They do recruiting of students. They do a lot of stuff for me. But if I wanted to, I could only do those things, and I would never have time to be creative and innovative. So I don't want to escape velocity, run away from the hairball. I just want to orbit it. I want to stay close enough that I can use it, but I want to not be caught in it. So that's his metaphor, to orbit the giant hairball. Great TED Talks here, and wonderful, just a wonderful little book, easy read. One of my favorites. And I made this graph. This is maybe a little hard to read, and I apologize, I'm an engineer, and maybe this is the only graph I have. But I sat in my office 4 hours, nothing on my calendar. Let's sit in my office and let's try to be creative. And they started, okay, 10 o'clock I'm starting, and I can make it till 2. Phone rings at 10:03, write that down. Someone knocks on the door at 10:07, right? Email thing dings, and you write down the interruptions that you have as you're trying to sit down and focus on something. And the mean time between interruptions, what is it, about 4 minutes or something like that? I made a graph normalized per hour. So never did I get 12 minutes in a row during my hour. And you can knock down the distribution. Yeah, it looks like the mean time is about 4 minutes per interruptions. This is not conducive to creativity. You will never be creative in this way. You will never think of the word day. Your brain will never catch up. And while you know it's on the right side, the day will never pop into your head because it's being distracted all the time by this. You have to let your brain work on that problem a little bit. One of the things I do is I write on my chalkboard in my office, dry erase board, what are the 3 things I'm working on? What are the 3 big problems that I want to solve? Not that I want to solve in my lifetime. I have those. Not that I want to solve in 5 years. I have those too. Not that I want to solve in 1 year. What are the things I want to get done in the next 2 weeks? And I try to change those constantly. Here are the three big ones I'm trying to do. It keeps them in my head so that I can work on these things. Have my brain work on them when I don't even know about it. Okay. This is good stuff. This one's too good not to share. This is another tool. There's lots of, I told you that your art and your creativity, there's no map for that, but there's lots of people who have things that work for them and they provide them to you because they might also work for you. This is one that I love because I like to irritate people in meetings. I go to too many meetings. Spend the first half of the meeting and you don't say anything, but you have your notebook, like I have my notebook that I carry about everywhere I go. My design notebook. If you're not one of these people, this is number 23. Been doing that for a while. And in the meeting, you write down in your notebook, what are all the things I expect to happen? They're talking about some subject in the meeting. What are all the things I expect to happen? Every assumption I can think of, write them all down. And then about when the meeting's almost done, you raise your hand and you say, I've got some ideas. And you start spitting out your ideas based on your assumptions. So let's do, and you just rattle people. Let's talk about a restaurant. What are the assumptions? Say the subject of the meeting is a new restaurant, or it's a new accounting form. That's one that I would love. Here's the new accounting form. How should we process purchasing? That's a meeting I would hate to go to, but it'd be fun to do this at. Let's talk about a restaurant. What happens when you go to a restaurant? First thing you do is you wait to be seated. Then you sit down. Then the server brings menu. Then the server brings drinks. Then the server asks for your order. Then you order food, right? You can all write that down. You've been to restaurants before. You know how that works. All you have to do now to come up with new ideas is try the opposite of every one of your assumptions. So what happens if we would have a restaurant? I have to walk over here. What if we had a restaurant where you don't wait to be seated? Maybe that In-N-Out burger in California is like that. What if you have a restaurant where no one sits down? That's kind of a cool idea. Would you go to a restaurant where you're not allowed to sit down, there's no chairs? What if you had no menus? There used to be one in Kearney where you ordered by phone, corded phone in the thing. What if there's only one, instead of having a menu of things, you just eat what they make that day. That's it. What if there's no server? What if there's no food at the restaurant? Could you have a restaurant where there's no food? Maybe you bring the drinks and we provide the environment. No, we provide the drinks and the environment, but you bring the food. It's like a potluck restaurant. Do you think that would work? What if there were no drinks? What if your job was to bring the drinks? You bring your own wine and you sit down at a restaurant. These all could be bad ideas for restaurants, but they're new ideas for restaurants, right? Nice little tool. That's a fun one. And you start saying, what if we had no accounting department? And people really look at you funny. Okay. Now, the third of my disjointed leg is this makerspace idea. I think it's really important, so I want to get it out. Any questions about that other stuff? Does everybody get the linchpin concept? Again, you can think I'm stupid if you want. I like that. But at least I want you to think about the idea that you're going to do something different and something special, something that's not on a map, something that's a gift, something that you're not paid to do. I want questions. Let's at least get a couple in here.
What are your ideas for minimizing interruptions?
Oh, minimize interruptions, hide. Absolutely hide. I go to a library, I try to stay away from coffee shops because the people there aren't there to work, they're there not to work. But there are lots of places in the world to hide, and I do that a lot. I also have a room in our house that's pretty isolated that I like. And you know, the funny thing is that a lot of creativity comes to people when they're not, there are cycles. You work intensely on a problem, and then you walk away. So for Einstein, he would work intensely on his mathematics, and he would stop and he would play the violin. He was a Mozart and Bach fan, right? For Jefferson, he went on walks. He would do something really, really hard, and then he'd write for a while, and then he'd go on a walk. That is allowing their brain it's engaging another part of their brain and letting that frontal lobe process daybreak, daylight, day, whatever the other one was. So the mix is important, and you definitely need some time to have interruptions. I proposed to the university, I've got 2 proposals that are pending. If anybody can help me with these proposals, I'd appreciate it. Number 1 is I would like the state of Nebraska not to recognize weddings on football Saturdays. Too much of my life has been ruined by weddings on football Saturdays, okay? Let's put an end to that. The second proposal I have is that 1 to 3 on Wednesdays should be quiet time at the university. You're not allowed to call anybody, you're not allowed to talk to anybody, it's quiet time. That sounds a little kindergartenish, but I think it would promote this. We're supposed to be creative at the university, no classes, no office hours, nobody's allowed to call people. 1 to 3 on Wednesdays. That's my second proposal. Set aside time for it. You ask companies, do you value innovation? Would you like to be more innovative? Yes and yes, always the answer, 100%. Then what do you do for innovation? How do you promote innovation? How are you focusing to make this a more important part of your company? And you get the blank stares with a drop jaw, and you have to slap them. You have to work at it. You have to figure out what your orange is, and you have to work on it. One more question. I'll promise to give a longer answer. There we go.
What's your favorite library at UNL?
My favorite what at UNL?
Library.
Library. The least visited one. Library folks, I see there's some library folks on the list, and I hope you'll listen to the next talk. You know, the Love Library at UNL, they've removed the stacks, the huge volumes of books, and they've made a learning community. And they're trying to morph on their business model. The library business model, I think, is totally broken. The engineering library used to be the patent repository. And that, Google, even more, Google patents, and it's all there now. And that's changing libraries, I think. So the old stacks of the engineering library is my favorite, to give you the short, concise answer, because it's close to my office, and nobody goes there. It's the other key. How about a kid question? Excuse me, I'm sorry, a young adult question. I have kids, they're this high. We have one, thank you. Pardon me? Why orange? Random. Just a different color. Yeah. Actually, it's because it's one of Microsoft Word's format for a box. No, the blue and the orange were just totally random. Oh, for the frontal lobe, yeah, just totally random. Yeah. Those colors don't have any significance. Yeah.
This goes long back. It's just in my mind. Why did your surgery went through the belly button? What's like the advantage of going through a belly button?
Oh, the surgery went through the belly button. What's the advantage of going through the belly button? Well, if I were to take my shirt off, you would see this six-pack, right? And the belly button, I don't know if you know what the belly button used to be. It used to be a tube, right? And it's at one of the nodes in between the cans of the six-pack. And there's no muscles there. So you can enter through the belly button without cutting a lot of muscles, and then there's not a lot of pain associated with that. So our goal is to, again, 300,000 people per year get the 12-inch incision. They're in the hospital for 12 days. If we can do it through the belly button, they're out in 2 days. for 300,000 people per year in the US, about 1 million worldwide per year. I hit the students on the head and they regurgitate that information. That's why we go to work every day. Okay, let's talk about this and then we'll do more questions. I'm glad you guys are starting to ask questions. That's good. In the spirit of all this, we are creating what we're calling a makerspace at UNL on Nebraska Innovation Campus. This is a growing trend. This theory of makerspace is a growing trend at the across the nation. This is Nebraska Innovation Campus. It used to be the State Fair. The State Fair moved to Grand Island a few years ago. You can see in the bottom left is Bob Devaney Sports Center. That's probably a place you guys recognize. These red buildings in the middle exist, and the orange stuff is all in the future. The red buildings kind of are going to look like this, and it's happening now. There's actually that middle building is open. And they've allocated space in these buildings for what's called a makerspace, and we plan to open next year. Let me talk about makerspaces. First of all, let's talk about making. It's just that, and I think it's really important. It's building physical things, and it comes in a lot of forms: art, engineering, architecture. This is a painting. This is a member of our club. She paints and does Photoshop with them. This is a woodworker in our group. Makes coffee tables, really nice coffee table. This is my two kids, the Lego guys. They get the box with the chair. They don't care about the chair. Let's make a spaceship out of the box, right? Dressmaking. She makes dresses. And then this is one I always pause at. This is a speaker. College kids don't want loud music, but they don't have money to buy expensive speakers, so they build their own. Same with coffee tables. But the interesting story about this is that the coffee table on the top left, you'll see that there are TV remote controls on there, and that's probably true with your coffee table as well. The student said, I'm sick of looking for my remote controls. My coffee table is always right there, but my remote controls usually aren't on top of it like they are in this picture. I want my coffee table to be my remote control. It should serve that function, and then it'll never be lost. Now, that's a simple idea, but what he wants to do is put a projector, like these projectors, wherever they are, on the ceiling, shine it down on top of the coffee table. It can project the numbers onto the coffee table, and then you have a camera looking down too, and you can track the finger and watch it push the buttons, right? And your coffee table could become your remote control. You won't lose your remote control anymore. Do you think that's a good idea? How many people think that's a good idea? How many people think that's a stupid idea? Let me ask you this. How many people think that there's 1 billion people in the world who want to take pictures of their lunch and then share it with their friends? The point is, I don't know if that's a good idea or it's a bad idea. What we need to do is enable these students to build this and find out. They should take little bets. We should give them an environment where they can connect together. This electrical engineer, they'll probably need a computer scientist, and they'll build one of these, and maybe it'll be a big deal. I still haven't figured out that food picture thing yet. So, a makerspace is for creativity what a rec center is for fitness. Some of you probably have joined a rec center. There's all these things, I don't know what they are called in Kearney, but these Snap Fitness or whatever. You pay a fee per month, and with that fee you get access to stuff. You get access to special equipment you don't have at home. I don't have a stationary bicycle at home, and I don't have a basketball court at home. But if I pay a fee, I can get that through one of these centers. Now, important things happen there. You also take classes there that are not related to your degree. You can go take a weightlifting class or a spinning class or whatever. And more importantly, teams form in these locations, ad hoc teams, meaning not planned, not permanent, they just come together. So I can go to the rec center in the middle of the afternoon, find 5 guys, 4 other guys, and play a basketball game. We come together, we do a project together, and then we go apart, we never see each other again. Or we can come together and join an intramural team in college, and you can do a project together for a semester, a bigger project, play in a league, and make permanent bonds. The quarterback of my intramural football team was the best man at my wedding. Probably because I caught the most passes from him, right? The idea of a makerspace is we do the same thing. We give you access to tools, we teach you classes, and you form ad hoc teams. So let me just show you some pictures. This is a makerspace in Silicon Valley I visited, but a big area for collaboration in the middle. They had a whole wall full of junk, of stuff you can use, power supplies from computers, switches, all kinds of crazy stuff that you can use. Then off to the sides were specialty rooms. This was their fabric room. When I was there was a 300-pound biker-looking dude. You can picture him just out of Sturgis with the beard and the leather and all that stuff, sewing the seat for the the motorcycle he just made. The seat's in the bottom right inset there. But he was being taught how to use the sewing machine by this 80-pound Asian lady who obviously had expertise in fabric but didn't know much about welding together motorcycles. And they were sharing their skills, their gifts. Their orange areas were overlapping. And they were making this new thing that wouldn't have happened without the space. Have a common area where you have your foosball table and your food. The new big exciting thing are 3D printers and laser cutters. Digital manufacturing and desktop manufacturing is coming. There'll come a day when you don't go to Walmart and buy furniture for your children's dollhouse that's exactly like a million other people. Instead, you'll download a file, you'll customize it how she wants it, put her name on the couch, and put her doll's name on the chair, and then you 3D print them, and then you have them there. Rather than manufacturing a billion identical things in China, shipping them in containers, distributing them over the United States very cheaply through Walmart, you can customize things. Customization becomes free. Rather than having a million things, you'll have a very custom thing. Machine shop, electronics, wood shop, that's my favorite, welding, digital classroom, meeting area, all that stuff. That's the kind of thing. You join, you get to come do this stuff. You get to take classes to do this stuff. You get to partner with people to make your remote control coffee table. This is the environment we're building there. Now, I just showed you a bunch of slides about the place itself, but it's not about the place. It's about the culture we're going to create there. We're going to make an environment where you can interact with other people and create new inventions about things you're passionate about. Want me done soon? But it's so interesting. I say this is who we are. We're Nebraskans. We build stuff. This goes back to that hardware slide. We need to encourage people's ability to make physical things. We're not going to outdo Silicon Valley at mobile apps or big data or online currency. They're going to do that really well. But this is who we are. We make stuff. Let's make that remote control thing. You're going to learn through doing rather than learning in the classroom. I'm glad to see all of you here because you're learning through doing. We're going to have entrepreneurship, and we're going to connect people together. So that's the big idea of the makerspace. There's an event coming up at UNL that I'll just point out. It's part of the Ian Thompson Forum on world issues. And on October 14th, there's going to be a special speaker who is a big leader in the maker movement. This will be available. First of all, it's free tickets at the Lead Center in Lincoln if you want to come. But it's available online. So big stuff happening. This is going to be a big deal. Makerspaces are a great thing. A lot of libraries are embracing makerspaces. I think communities should embrace makerspaces because I think they can be transformative in the culture and innovation that exists there. I'll take a couple more questions and then I'm going to get kicked out of here. Yeah?
When you were small, did you ever think you would become an engineer and be where you're standing?
No, absolutely not. When I was small, I didn't think I would be an engineer. I should have, because again, I was a hardware store guy, and it kind of makes sense looking back, but I didn't know that. And my high school teacher, I forget, we had some experiment we were blowing sand and studying erosion and pouring water, and I put things together in a special way, and she said, hey, you're pretty good at that. You should think about engineering. And that was the first I heard of engineering. If she hadn't said that, I don't know what I'd be doing today. But engineering is a wonderful profession because you get to do math and science. You're very employable. You get to do creativity and art. You get to be creative. I love this job. It's a great one. Another question. Last one. Sorry. Take two. Okay. Let's go here first, and we'll go in the back.
Where do you get your ideas from?
Oh, gosh. If I knew where I got my ideas from, that would be, I would know how to do all the orange stuff. It's tough. You focus really, really hard, and then you play the violin or something. And then you focus really, really hard, and then you go run. That's a tough question. One of the things that helps a lot is, I have a picture of it in here, is I have good students. Nebraska has great students, and they have good ideas. And building that culture of sharing ideas and connecting is really, really important. Yeah?
So these clubs that you're talking about, are those
They're student-based, but we want everybody in there.
It's open to,
Everybody, even the nuts. That's been our problem so far.
is there like, I mean, do they pay fees to, do they join like a fitness club?
Okay, so as of now, the club itself, there's no fee to join. You just join. And then you can participate in classes and do some things that the club does. When the makerspace exists, there'll be some fee to join. And I want to keep the bar low for students, maybe $50 a semester. I want you to have some skin in the game, but I want to keep it a low bar for students. And then outside members and companies will pay higher fees as they go on. There's a commercial operation in California. Everything's more expensive in California. It's like $150 a month. I don't want it to be that high. I want to build a culture rather than make money. So, does it make sense? One more question from over here, and then, yeah, okay, go ahead. Okay.
How do you prevent this from continuing to increase the cost of education at the university?
How do you prevent this from continuing to increase the cost of education at the university?
The average school debt for people my age is $30,000. This sounds like another way to increase.
Yeah, I was a school debt guy too. And I think this is a huge value add. I think students should pay more to come to the university because of the makerspace. We're going to make different students and better students because of this. Now, I think there are larger problems with, we just built a climbing wall at the university. And I think the model is broken in a lot of ways. So the purpose of the climbing wall is to show high school students on the tour of the climbing wall because that's cool, that's hip. And their job is to get, not even your money, they want to get the loans company's money to the university, right? Honestly, I don't care if you go to college. I want you to be special. And if I can walk into a makerspace and I can show you 5 or 6 people that are special, and none of it had to do with what they learned in school, right? Where's Jared? Is Jared back yet? Poor kid. So that's my first answer, is I want to increase the value. The reason, we could get into this pretty deeply, the reason costs are going up, there's 2 areas costs are going through the roof. It's healthcare and it's higher education. And it's a third-party transaction now. It used to be when I broke my leg as a kid, the doctor came to my mom's house and she wrote him a check, $10. I have a copy of the check from my arm break in 1974. And we paid the doctor. And if he didn't give good service, we didn't pay him much. And if he didn't want to come to see us, he didn't come to see us. Maybe there's some kind of obligation there. But it was a first-party transaction. It was free trade between him and me. School's not like that anymore. Students usually don't pay for their school. It's a third-party transaction. Somebody else is paying. The student doesn't care how much it costs, right? The people paying the loan people don't care how much it costs, and the university doesn't care how much it costs. They want it to cost more, right? So we've transitioned college to a third-party payer. Now, that system's going to break, and the reason it's going to break is because MIT, Stanford, both have their full curriculums online now. And it's a viable option. Actually, Georgia Tech offers a master's in computer science for $8,000. High-quality master's with a certificate for $8,000. Really good school. So that model's going to break. But the core problem is it's a third-party transaction. Third-party transactions are inflationary. When I take people to business, on a business lunch, my business is paying, so we get dessert. When my kids go out to eat, they don't get dessert, right? One more. I don't want to end on that one. That's a tough one. Yeah, over here. I thought I saw you.
What creativity or like productivity do you do in your free time?
Oh, lots of stuff. I do woodworking. That's probably my biggest one. But now the great thing is I have a 12-year-old son who's a techie, and we have great fun together. We're making a robot that sits in the middle. You put chalk on the sidewalk, and then it's got 3 strings. You know those football cameras that float over the thing? And then you can draw on the sidewalk with 3 strings kind of thing. That's our project right now. So we're going to want to set it out in front of a business and write their logo in front of the business on their sidewalk by computer control. That's our current project. That kind of stuff. So thank you all. Now, I just want to say I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be here till noon. I'd love to talk to you if you have ideas or criticisms or whatever. Come grab me. Thanks.
Thank you.